Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me here for my first ever podcast or vlog, whichever you choose to call it. My name's Hannah and this is my happy space. My happy space is my home, which is in Oakhampton, a town on the edge of Dartmoor, which is in Devon in England. And I'm at my most happy when I'm surrounded by crafty goodness. I've crafted pretty much all my life, but here we're going to be mainly focusing on the yarn crafts, crochet and knitting. I might sometimes share some of my other crafts with you. I enjoy paper crafting, art journaling, cross stitch, sewing, embroidery, lots. But here we're going to talk about yarn. So I thought I'd share my journey of crochet knitting with you. I learnt to crochet probably 5, maybe even 6 years ago now. Like a lot of people, I suffer with my mental health, and about 5 years ago or so, unfortunately I had to give up work due to this. So I was at home a lot and really unenthusiastic about everything. As the years went on, time went by, I got a little bit more interested in things, and that's when my sister Cara came to me and suggested I have a go at crochet. She thought that I would enjoy it, and she also thought that it would give me a bit of a focus. My mum was learning to crochet as well at the same time, so there'd be a support there for me too. She started off by teaching me the basic granny square. Now, she'd already taught herself to crochet through books and watching videos on YouTube, like most people do, and she thought she had the skills to teach me, and she did. Didn't take long, and I managed to make my very own granny square, and I loved it. It was brilliant. Gave me something to focus on, and it was really therapeutic. Some crochet can be really almost mindless, that you get into a bit of a rhythm with the stitches, and obviously as your skills and confidence grow, you're going to move on to far more exciting things. So that's how I got into crochet. Knitting came along a little bit later. People in my family have been knitting forever, my mum and my nan especially, so it's always been lurking there, ready for me to join in. My mum taught me to knit, begrudgingly I think is the best way to put it. She taught me the basic knit and purl stitches, but I think she'll be first to say she didn't quite have the patience to take me any further. She's a great teacher with other people, but maybe just not with me. So then along came our friend Sarah, who is affectionately known at our knit club as Sock Sarah. She knits a lot of socks. She said to me, "You can knit now. You've learnt the stitches. I'm going to teach you how to make socks." And she did. She was following the Winwick mum basic sock pattern, and that's what she used to teach me. And she had more patience. She was brilliant, went through absolutely everything with me, and that was it. I was hooked on knitting socks. So I've knitted a lot of socks over the past few years, but not long after that learning to knit, I started to work in my local yarn shop, which is the Woolly Beader in Oakhampton, and that's when I really started to challenge myself. The owner of the shop, Laura, wanted me to have the skills to share with other people, not just about my crochet, but for knitting too. So she started to challenge me with patterns. I tried all different things and started to make garments and was able to use lots of different types of yarn. So now I'd say I'm a fairly able knitter. And I've carried out a few projects now. So that's my journey into knitting and crochet. Hopefully I haven't rambled too much there, not gone too quickly, and hopefully there weren't too many ums or ers. So now you know a little bit about me. I'm going to share with you my finished objects, FOs. So you might notice when I start showing you these that I'm a big fan of Stephen West. West knits are the best knits that you might find on Instagram. The first FO that I'm going to show you isn't a very recent project, but it was one of my favourites that I've taken part in during lockdown, like as we are here in England at the moment. I've been doing quite a few knitting, crochet projects during that time, mostly knitting. So all the projects I'm going to show you today are knitted. If you see me keep looking down, it's because I've got a notebook with a few notes, but also my projects are just next to me. So let's start off with the very first shawl. It's a whopper. It's a Stephen West pattern. This one is the dotted fade. Okay, like I said, it's a big one, so I'll have to show you a bit at a time. Cover my face up. There we go, lots of colours. It's a big one. So this one, I dived into my stash, had quite a few colours that would go together. Now, when I made this, sillily, I threw away the wall bands. I can remember who the dyers were, not necessarily all the colours, I'm afraid, so I'll try and talk you through it. So we've got this speckled blue, which unfortunately I don't know. That's just one that I had in my stash. Then we fade into the next colour, which is this blue and pink, pale colour. And that one is from down Sheepy Lane, which I had some leftovers from another project. Then we come on to this pink and grey. You can't see the sparkle in those, I'm afraid, because of the lighting. That one's from Siobhan Crafts. Then we move on to this blue, black, pink speckled yarn that has been in my stash for a long time and I was waiting to find the right project. This one is from Dye Candy and I got that one in a fibre share a little while ago. Next, we've got this bright pink and blue, which is from Siobhan's Crafts again. And then finishing off with the chevron border. This one I do remember. Now, this one is from Smoggy Knits, previously known as Of Hook's Sake. She used to dye yarn. And this colour is called Matching Shell Suits. Now, I remember that because when I was a kid, I did have a shell suit that colour. So you can see the edging is a signature from Stephen West that I cord bind off. Now, don't be put off by I cord bind offs, I was. They're not difficult, but they do take a long time, especially on a shawl this big. So that is my dotted rays. Okay, next project. Oh, now this is another Stephen West. A lot of you will have seen this on social media. This is the Winterlights shawl. Now this was part of the Hyber Knit Along 2020 from Stephen West. I wasn't sure about this pattern at first. I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't know if I'd be able to do it. So a friend of mine, Ruth, from Ruth Loves to Knit, she's got a great podcast. You should check that one out. She had made a beautiful shawl and I commented on it on Instagram and said, this is amazing. I really want to try and do it, but I think it might be too difficult for me. What do you think? And her reply was, I think you can do it. You're able to knit. You can do it. The patterns are great. And that was really all the encouragement I needed. I just needed someone to say, yeah, go for it. So I did. Again, got some yarn from my stash, but I also had to go shopping for this one, unfortunately. So here we go. It's another big one. Just show you all the way down. There we go. Now this isn't normally my colour palette. You'll see from all my bits and pieces around, I tend to prefer bright colours, but sometimes go for a bit more pale. Now the first colour I chose was here. It's a white background with pastel coloured speckles. And I knew I wanted to use this. This has been in my stash for a while and I wanted the perfect project. Now this is from Fleabubs and Lala and this colour is called Walking Backwards. So then I matched up my contrasting colours to go with this one. The other colour that I had in my stash was this pink. You can see they're on the bubble stitches. That one is called Neon Fairy, and that one is from Hey J Yarn, another yarn that I received in a fibre share. So I had those two colours to start me off. So then I headed over to Instagram, looked through some of my favourite yarn dyers, went over onto some websites, onto Etsy, and finally decided to go with this beautiful pale yellow. And that one's called Goldilocks, and that comes from the Woolshed. Followed up by this blue, which is one of a kind from Somerset Yarns. Now this pattern had lots of new stitches for me to learn, which included some colour changing, some bubble stitches, some slip stitches, but I found the patterns excellent. Stephen West patterns are always great, but also there were some video tutorials on YouTube that if you're going to take part in this, carry out this shawl, I highly recommend going over there because it shows you really detailed exactly what to do. And like me, if you haven't done it before, those particular techniques, it's a great place to have a look. I'm just going to show you one more time because I'm pretty pleased with this one. So there we go, that's the Winterlights shawl. Right, next on the list, it's another Stephen West. Okay, this is the last one. There is only one more after that, but this is the last Stephen West. When you bought the Hibernate along, there was more than one pattern. One of the other patterns that came with it was the honey striped hat. Now, this had some of the pattern features from the Winterlights shawl, which were the honeycomb shapes, which I really enjoyed doing. And I thought, well, I could do it in that, so I'll give it a go in this one. So I'll let you have a look. Not using hand-dyed yarns this time. This one is a double knit weight. Great big pom-pom. So for this hat, I have used this mustard colour, which is from James C. Brett. That's a merino blend. Then to create the stripes, I've used this dark khaki green and a royal blue. These are King Cole superwash wool double knits. So it's a super soft, warm hat. I'd only just finished it really, and my sister came and saw it, and now she's claimed it. So that's going to go away with her. On the top, I've used the blue and the khaki to make this great big pom-pom. To make my pom-pom, there's loads of different ways to do it. I use these. These are my Pom-Pom Makers. Lots of people probably have seen these, know how to use them, but that's how I chose to make mine. Trimmed it right back so you get a nice shape. And then that's been added onto the top there. Ready to be worn. It's quite a big hat actually, but as the weather's pretty miserable at the moment and cold, I think that will be keeping her warm on her dog walks. So that is the last Stephen West for this week. My final finished object to show you was just a quick one. Now, I've got long hair, normally always wear it up, so a hat isn't always the best thing to try and cover it up with. And obviously, like a lot of places, it's been pretty chilly, and with your hair up, your ears get cold. So I decided a headband would be easier, and I thought I'd try something a little bit different. Now, I do a lot of different patterns, which are, generally what I would say were sort of simple knitting. Knits and pearls, garter stitch, stockingette, that kind of thing. Now, this headband, I decided I'd have another go at cables. Tried it once before and I wasn't ready, I don't think. Couldn't get my head around it, kept making mistakes, so I didn't do it again. But I thought it was time to have another try. So I went on to Pinterest this time, typed in cabled headbands, knitted patterns, saw what came up, found a really basic cable pattern. This one is knitted in Super Chunky. This is a merino wool and it is from Wonderland Knits, this one is, and it's called Tweedledee-Dum. And this is the colour here. I'll show you what I've got left. This one came all the way from America, like I say, and it was a Yarny Wish that was granted 2 years ago maybe. So here we go. This is very basic cable that I chose. And because it's super chunky, knitted up really quickly. Nice and easy. Couldn't get too lost. But I think it's given me a bit more confidence now to try cables again. Maybe nothing too adventurous, but definitely a little bit more cable. Probably on a sock, on a smaller object to get used to before doing it on a garment. Because I do love the look of cables, but not quite ready for that yet. There we go. Finished objects. So next, it's time to show you whips, work in progress. Now, to be honest, I haven't got a huge amount of whips going on at the moment. Normally, you'd ask me and I'd have 5, 6, who knows, maybe even more. But it seems to be that recently I've been working on great big shawls and I haven't wanted to do anything else. I've really enjoyed doing the pattern. So I thought, well, I don't need to cast anything else on. So I've cast on 2 projects, I think, but I have got plans for other projects, so I'll share those with you as well. So first of all, I'll show you what I'm working on at the moment. So I'm doing a sock. This is actually a second sock I'm working on because I am doing a bog standard vanilla sock. They're not that exciting to show you. They're taking a long time. They're from my brother Dominic and he has size 13 feet. So they're taking their time. These ones are for me. Now this is the yarn I'm using. Oh, you see the sparkle. This was a Christmas gift. And this is Starry Night from West Yorkshire Spinners. Now the sock that I'm knitting is a lace pattern. Just about to see that. Now this pattern is the basic lace from Winwick Mum. Now if you've ever used any of her patterns, you'll know that she's got YouTube tutorials, pictorials, everything. She goes into it in great detail, which is great because, again, like cables, I've been put off a bit with lace. Tried once, I think, and got, again, confused. So I thought, time to try again. Try basic. Okay, you can see a little bit better there. Now I'm managing to follow this. It's a 4-row repeat. And then she combines that with her basic sock pattern. So I've gone for quite a long leg. And then you've got the heel flap and gusset. And then I'm just about onto the foot. Now I've got size 8 feet, so these are going to take a little time, but because they're mine, it's not so bad. So the lace pattern continues on the top and it's just flat knitting on the bottom. Now, like I say, I use Winwick Mum's basic sock patterns to knit my socks. Find they're a really good fit. To knit my socks, I prefer to use mini circulars, 9-inch. Now the ones that I've got on here at the moment are higher bamboo, but I also like Knit Pro Symphony. Prefer to use wooden or bamboo rather than metal. Got my stitch markers. These were for my gusset decreases, but I keep them in anyway. For this pattern it'll help because it'll keep my lace in the right place, but also then I don't have to replace them when it comes to the toe shaping. These are just little stitch markers that I've made myself. So hopefully they're not going to take too much longer. When I finish this one, I think I'll go on to finish Dominic's other bit boring sock. And then I'll start this second one. They look quite different. The way the yarn's pooling, this side has got a lot of the pale, this side's got the dark. I don't mind. I'm not a sock matcher. I don't mind that they don't match. Sometimes, you know, I'll try if I particularly want to, or if I'm making them for someone else, I might try and match them a bit more, but for me, I don't mind. Okay, so that's that one. Also, that's a free pattern. So if you haven't tried lace before, I suggest going over there. Winwick Mum's got a lot of patterns, some free and some paid for, but the basics are great. Okay, so the next whip is a bit of a stash buster. I've decided to have a go at the Northeasterly blanket from Skeinanigans. So here we go. I've only done a little bit of this, haven't started that long ago. And I'm doing this one in 4-ply because I've got an awful lot of 4-ply on the go. So if I show you this way around, let's actually show you the front. Then you won't see my ends that I haven't sewn in yet. Okay, so it's this arrow shape. Which you knit in the columns and then you'll join it on as you go. But like I say, I've got a lot of scraps and minis that I want to try and use up. So this one you can make as big as you want. So I'll just keep going, I think. I'll show you my stash bag. Great big bag. Now in here I've got minis. So that's a cake Celine. Slightly bigger minis. Siobhan's Crafts. But also underneath all the skeins I have got some little balls of yarn. All sorts of things that have been used in different projects. So there's some of the bigger ones, but I've also got in this other bag, so they don't get lost, are some really tiny bits. So these are sort of maybe less than 10 grams. So the different colours on the blanket are going to be different shapes, different sizes, different amounts of yarn. So it'll create different sized arrows, if you like, chevrons. So there's plenty there to be getting on with. And as I do other projects and there's only little bits left, I'll pop them in the bag and probably carry on. We'll see how big it gets. It's going to be obviously a long-term project. See how it goes. There's a possibility I'll start something else in between. Okay, so they're my two whips that are on the go. Now I've got some plans for some more, and I think Ruth coined the phrase pending whips. So I'll show you just the one that I've got definitely ready to go. I've got some yarn left over from my Winterlights shawl, and I've got this one, which is the one of a kind from Somerset Yarns, which is a blue with some purple and green and yellow, darker blue flecks through it. And I weighed that one, and there's about, I think about 57, 58 grams. So not enough for a full pair of socks, but definitely the main body of the socks. Now I've ordered a mini skein to go with this. Now you might say, well, you've got that great big bag full over there. If you can believe it, there wasn't anything that would match this. Probably was, but I'd seen a colour I particularly wanted to go with it online. So I'm waiting for that one to arrive, which is a 20 gram skein from Fearless Yarns. And that's going to be a neon purple to go with that, which I'm going to use for cuffs and toes. Now, this project is inspired by Ruth. I saw her doing that on her podcast, and it's a pair of socks called Mistletoe socks. No, sorry, Mistletoe Kisses. socks, okay? And that's from Craft House Magic. Now, Ruth has got size 8 feet like myself. She tells me, or she tells us all, that she can knit a good sized pair of socks from a 50-gram skein and a contrasting mini. So I'm holding her to it that I will be able to make my pair of socks fit my great big size 8 feet using this yarn and a mini skein. So when that arrives, I'll definitely be casting that one on. Now, like I told you earlier, I'm a massive fan of Stephen West. You can see I've got a different one of his shawls hanging up behind me. That's the Slumber Shawl. I've knitted the Jig Shawl. And I've also knitted 4 Penguonos. One for my sister, one for my mum, 2 for myself. So I'm a big fan of his patterns. Now, he's released a lot of new patterns recently from the Honeycomb painting collection. The other day he released a pattern called the Painting Honeycombs Jacket. It's definitely on my list. I will definitely be making this item. I'm not 100% sure when. When I'm doing these big projects from Stephen West, I tend to like to use hand-dyed yarns just because they're beautiful yarns that need to be shown off in a fabulous way. So I would prefer to use hand knits to make the Painting Honeycombs cardigan. However, the cardigan calls for double knit. I don't think I own any hand-dyed double knit. It's nearly all 4-ply, which I tend to buy because in my mind, for some reason, I get more for my money. I don't know if that's right, but I feel like I've got more yarn. And I know that if I can't find a pattern for it, it'll probably go into socks. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to start collecting hand-dyed double knits. Now, I think I'm only going to be using hand-dyed double knits for the honeycomb sections down the arms because I'll have to use a bigger size. I'm a bigger girl. So I'll probably use a commercial double knit yarn for the bulk of it, but definitely on those Colourpop sleeves, I'm going to be looking for hand-dyed double knits. So I'm going to have to start searching things out. But I do also own the necessary equipment to dye my own, which could be risky. I have got a lot of 4-ply yarn ready to use for knitting, but not a double knit. So either way, I'm going to have to buy something. So that is definitely on my list of things to do. If you've got any suggestions for hand dyers that do double knit mini skeins, yeah, probably mini skeins rather than full skeins. Any suggestions, pop them down underneath. So I think we've made it to the end. I've talked a little bit about myself, hopefully not too much. I've shared with you my finished objects, I've shared with you my works in progress and my ideas for the next couple of weeks. Now, if you've enjoyed watching and would like to see a little bit more of what I get up to, you can follow me over on Instagram at Hannah's_happy_space. Hopefully, I'll see you again soon. I'd love it if you left me any comments or any feedback. That would all be great. And I'll see you next time. Bye.